All right, Shalom family. Shalom as you come in. Please hit the like button. Also share and subscribe if you haven't already. Also for those who have subscribed, make sure you just check to ensure that you're still subscribed, understanding that people are unsubscribed unknowingly from time to time. Before we really get into this, I want to make sure that we are on and that you can hear me nice and clearly. And with that, we'll get started. Okay. All right. I'm assuming based on your responses that we're live and we're coming through clear. So let's get started.
Together our wives and children sold us. In the belly of each great ship we traveled. By the rivers of Babylon we found our brothers here. Together in Colombia, Australia, the Mexicans.
All right. Shalom, brothers and sisters. I want to welcome you all to another edition of our Wednesday night Blog Talk Radio. Before we get started, I first and foremost want to make sure that you can hear me and see me nice and clearly. I'm hearing some people are saying that the sound is a bit low. I believe that is for the music specifically, but I want to make sure that as I speak, you can hear me nice and clearly. And once that's confirmed, we'll get started. Okay, great. All right, everything is nice and clear, so let's not waste any time. Let's get started. Again, I want to welcome you all to another edition of our Wednesday night Blog Talk Radio. As you can see, I'm currently filling in for Elder Rawchaa, who will, if it be the Most High's will, be back next week. We have, I believe, a very informative show we're going to jump into today. I'm not going to take up much of your time. I'm going to go ahead and try to get right into it, hit the points, and make sure that we have time for calls. I know the last time I had a show, we kind of ran. Well, we didn't necessarily run over. I believe the stream cut out before we could have the opportunity to actually get to the calls. So tonight we're going to try to make sure that that's not an issue. Again, we're going to hit some very good points, if it be the Most High's will. And after that, we'll open up and allow you all to give your perspectives, okay? So everything is good. I'm assuming everything is good. So let's get started. Okay, as you all can see, the topic of tonight's broadcast is a famine in the land. Is there a war against alternative views? Again, the topic of tonight's discussion, a famine in the land. Is there a war against alternative views? And some of you may be a little confused as to what this title means. What is this connection between a famine in the land and a war against alternative views? Usually when we think of famine, we think of it from a food standpoint. The lack of bread, as the scriptures call it. And some of you who have been listeners and have been tuning in for a while, you may understand that the famine is alluding to a scripture in the Bible, which we're going to read. That scripture stating that, in fact, if I just paraphrase it, we don't necessarily have to read it. But when you get the opportunity, for those who are new to our broadcast, those who are new to this church and what we teach in general, when you get the opportunity, go to the book of Amos chapter 8, verse number 11, where it tells us that a time would come in which there would be a famine in the land. Not a famine of bread and water, but a famine of the word, a famine of the truth, a famine of the knowledge that we find contained in the Bible. So that's where this title comes from. Is when we say a famine in the land, we're not talking about a physical famine of bread and water, or as the scriptures call it, a lack of bread. We're more so talking about a famine of information. Okay? So, again, the topic of discussion, a famine in the land. Is there a war against, quote unquote, and I want to make this clear, that we're putting this in quotes, as alternative views? And I put it in quotes because we know that that term alternative, along with the term conspiratorial or conspiracy theorist, those are terms, those have become somewhat fighting words in this current time on social media. Okay, if you call someone alternative media, if you call them a conspiracy theorist, if you call them, any of those labels that kind of fall under that category, automatically it can, not always, but it can discredit a person's information. It can discredit their platform or what have you, and have them pretty much chased off of various social media platforms. And this is not something that's far-fetched. This is something that we've been seeing quite often, which is what actually inspired this broadcast. Now, before we continue, I just want to check to make sure everything is good before we get right into it. Okay, let me make sure everything is good. Okay, we're still here. All right, and I'll be making these checks pretty often just to make sure that I'm still with you. I noticed a few things kind of operating a little funny on my end a bit earlier, so I want to make sure that as we get into this, we're not having any glitches or any issues taking place. So nonetheless, let's get into it. Let's give you the gist of what we're going to be dealing with in this discussion. And I want to get you all's point of view on this. I'm going to try my best not to take up too much time, as well as try to pretty much lay things out so that you can give your perspective. Okay? So, over the years, we've seen several individuals, organizations, and media outlets which have been deemed alternative, removed from some of the most notable media platforms. So in other words, over the past few years, we're going to give some examples. We've seen people who have gained some level of popularity on social media, sites such as YouTube or Facebook, and some of the other media platforms where information is shared. We've seen some of these same people deplatformed. I believe that's the term they use to describe when someone is pulled off of these various social media outlets. So we've seen quite a few people deplatformed, though we may not agree with all of their views that are shared on their platforms or that are shared on their YouTube pages or their social media pages. We may not agree with everything they say, but however, we must ask the question, is there a bias against anyone who does not share or agree with the views of mainstream media? If so, meaning if you believe that there's a bias against people who pretty much have a different view or, quote unquote, an alternative view than what is being shared by mainstream media. By mainstream media, I mean Fox News, CNN, ABC, NBC, CNN, so on and so forth. You all are familiar with these platforms. These are platforms that we all grew up on, and for a time in our life, they earned our respect. Lawya, they earned our respect as respectable news outlets. We respected their journalism, or what we believed at the time to be journalism. But as we grew, especially in this knowledge of the truth, we began to realize that a lot of what was reported on these mainstream platforms was largely propaganda. Okay? But nonetheless, I don't want to get in the way of your perspective, so I'm going to continue on. I'm going to try my best not to be biased as much as possible. Okay? Obviously, I have my viewpoint, and at times, my viewpoint may show through. Please excuse me if that affects your viewpoint, but I want this to try to be, I want you all to give a non-biased opinion on some of these things we're going to be discussing, okay? If so, why do you believe there's a bias? Meaning, if there is a bias, or if you believe there's a bias against anyone who does not share the views of mainstream media, the question is, why do you believe there is a bias against those who do not share mainstream media views? And lastly, the last thing we want to ask is, where do you all think this censorship is heading? Okay? What do you think is the end game for all of the censorship? Okay? So those are the questions we want to ask, and when we open up the lines, you can answer those questions. But I want to make a few statements before we get into it. Okay? I want to make a few statements before we get into it. I would call this a disclaimer. All right? And I want to make this disclaimer pretty much lambacking off with some of the things we discussed in last week's broadcast. In last week's broadcast, we went into the latest event that took place. Whatever you believe concerning that event and how it took place, did it take place? And if it did, was it according to what was reported by mainstream media? We're not necessarily going to get into that conversation. We are, however, based upon that and some of the things that we discussed last week, understanding that a lot of these events that are happening in real time, or that are happening in, quote unquote, real life, a lot of these events are being tied to and associated with online personalities, online platforms. Okay? And this ties into what we're going to be discussing today. Okay? We have this strange phenomenon where events that are taking place in real life or real time are somehow being associated or attached to someone's online associations, someone's online viewing activities, okay? Someone's online subscriptions. This is somehow being called into play or called into question whenever these events take place, okay? With this most recent one, we saw an example. We're going to touch on him lightly tonight. We saw a situation where this guy, believe it or not, he was associated with several platforms, primarily platforms that are, grassroots platforms that are, pretty much well respected within those on social media, within the Black, maybe even Hispanic community. Different things when we turn on YouTube, the various places we may go to get certain perspectives or see what's going on in the world. This guy had either a subscription or ties according to the narrative. Okay, according to the narrative, he had ties to various different platforms of what, people within the Black community, regardless of your belief, regardless of your religious or your political beliefs or what have you. These may be some of the platforms you may check out to see what's going on in the world or in pop culture or what have you. Or even if you're so-called conscious, there would be certain platforms you'll go to on YouTube and social media that this guy was attached to. And somehow these are all being pulled in and kind of being highlighted as, because this guy committed this heinous act, it must have something to do with his connections on social media. Which again, that's something we're going to touch on lightly. But I want to make this disclaimer just to make sure that you all understand when we bring out this information where we are coming from. And we also want those who are new to this and those who may not necessarily even believe in what we believe, and those who may just happen upon this or may hear about us or may hear about Israelites in general. It may have a viewpoint on what they have come across when it comes to Israelites and some of the information they have run to and the conclusions they have drawn based upon that information that they've run into as to what an Israelite is. Okay? And again, this is off the back of last week's show. Okay? So, just for those who may be viewing this, who may happen upon this in the future, those of you who are amongst us, who may know these things about us or may not know these things about us, and those who are new and are just kind of feeling their way right now, don't quite know what to think about this. They agree with some of the things we say. They're still kind of finding their way, not 100% there, but they're still trying to, they're still finding their way. They're still trying to figure out what this is about. So, first and foremost, let me make this clear. Okay? We are a Bible-based or a biblical-based organization. Okay? I'm going to say that again. We are a Bible-based or a biblical-based organization, which means the principles that we teach, that we believe in, and that we live by to the best of our ability are principles that are founded upon the Bible. Okay? What we say, we try to make sure to the best of our ability is a reflection of our belief in the Bible. What we do, we try to make sure is a reflection of our belief in the Bible. Okay? When you go into the scriptures, 1 Peter 4:11, it states, if any man speak, let him speak as the oracles of God. So again, when we speak, when we teach, when we live our lives, we try to live in accordance to the best of our abilities, in accordance with the Bible. Okay? So that's first and foremost. I want to make that clear so that no one can assume, no one can try to guess, no one has to draw their own conclusion. We're making it clear from the jump. We are a biblical-based or a Bible-based organization, okay? No disrespect to anyone who is a Muslim. You have the right, you have the freedom of religion in this country to be whatever religion you decide you want to be. But we're not Muslims. I say that because you may see some of the attire, you may see what we call a mitri, or what some of you may refer to as a turban. And again, you may draw some conclusions. We're not Muslims. Again, no disrespect to anyone who practices the faith of Islam. No disrespect if you believe in the Quran, but we don't believe in the Quran. Okay, we believe in the Bible, first and foremost. Okay. Secondly, we do not advocate for any form of criminality. Okay? Again, someone says there's something wrong with the volume. Okay? Let me turn up the volume. Okay. And let me make sure I stay. I'm sorry. Again, I don't have the chat always before me, so let me find a way to keep this chat up so I don't lose track of where you guys are and some of your requests. Okay, so we should have the chat up. Okay. Let me know if the sound is better, and we'll move on. Okay, volume is good. Okay, so we're gonna move on. Okay, so you guys heard the first points, so you all heard the opening statements as well as the points I just made, correct? You all got the gist of what went down based on the opening statements as well as the first point that I wanted to make. It wasn't that low to where you couldn't hear anything, is what I'm saying. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, wonderful. Okay, so first point, we are a biblical-based organization. We believe in the Bible, okay? And the Bible is the foundation of our belief, the foundation of our faith, okay? Secondly, we do not advocate for any form of criminality. Again, we do not advocate for any form of criminality. We, being Bible believers, believe that it is our duty to keep the commandments of God. And within the commandments of God, specifically the 10 commandments, it tells us the following. Going to the book of Exodus chapter 20, verse 12 through 17. Honor thy father and thy mother, that thy days may be long upon the land which the Lord thy God giveth thee. Now, in making that second statement that we do not believe in any form of criminality, some of you may be wondering, what does honoring mother and father have to do with criminality? Well, it don't have anything to do with criminality, specifically. But I want to make this clear on that point. We don't advocate for criminality, and we also do not advocate for the disrespect and the dishonor of your parents or those who have raised you. And we have to make that statement because, again, when we're talking about Israelites, it is associated with rebellion. It is associated with, in many cases, dishonor of any form of establishment, even if that establishment is within your home. If that authority is within your home, because the Israelite faith is about just rebelling against all things, you have many brothers and sisters who come into the faith or the understanding of being an Israelite, and all of a sudden now they start to disrespect or dishonor their parents. And we don't agree with that. Okay? We don't agree with that. Anytime there's a situation where someone is telling us that they're trying to share the faith with their parents and they're getting into arguments with their parents, we counsel them and guide them and let them know that in no circumstance can there be a situation where you're disrespecting your mother or your father. Irregardless of what you believe they have done wrong based upon your newfound information. They couldn't have been that wrong because how they raised you, okay, at least led you up until this point where you can start to profess and proclaim that you have this newfound information and this newfound truth. So you have to at least, if anything, thank them for that. Okay? Along with the fact that they actually raised you and got you to this point. So we don't believe in the dishonor of parents. Being an Israelite does not equate to being a rebellious person who is against all authority, that is against even the very people who raised them. We're against that. Okay? We're for being patient with your family, being patient with your loved ones. Okay? Second thing, the book of Exodus chapter 20, verse 13. Thou shalt not kill. Okay? Thou shalt not kill. Again, we do not advocate for any form of criminality. Okay? Meaning, we do not advocate for anyone to go out and commit crimes such as murder. Okay? To do so, as we mentioned last week, being someone who is an Israelite, okay? Being someone who is an Israelite, if someone was to do so, automatically, or if someone was to advocate, let's say you have someone who is advocating, professing to be an Israelite, and telling their followers to go out and commit crimes, to commit murder, okay? Or as Exodus 20 mentions, committing thievery, stealing, okay? If someone was to do so, they would be discredited, okay? Not by the mainstream media. We don't need the mainstream media to come in and discredit someone who commits those acts, okay? If someone is advocating for rape, there's no need for the mainstream media to come in and officiate and now try to castigate and discredit those who advocate for rape or abuse of women, abuse of children. Okay? Why? Because the Bible, first and foremost, discredits you if you are an advocate for those acts, or if you're someone advocating for your followers to commit those acts. You are discredited by the Bible. On top of that, those who have sense within the quote-unquote Israelite community, they will also discredit you for committing such acts. Meaning, if you're committing murder, if you're advocating for murder or advocating for your followers to steal, advocating for your followers to abuse women, to commit things such as rape or child abuse, okay? Automatically that discredits you as an Israelite or someone who professes to be an Israelite, okay? And even though in that term I'm speaking in general for Israelites, but I want to more so speak for the Gathering of Christ Church, because at the same time as we try to make sure that if we're going to come forward and speak concerning Israelites, at least we try to put forth an image and an understanding that, this is something that is common amongst all Israelites, but at the same time, we can only speak for ourselves. It's very difficult for us to speak for other organizations that we're not a part of. So I'm going to try not to do that. Okay. So when we say Israelites, we can only, we can scale it down to specifically the Gathering of Christ Church. Okay. In this context, there may be other Israelites who agree with these points. There may be other Israelites who disagree with these points. And that's another thing. Israelites are not a monolith, meaning there's no one head or no one teacher or prophet over all Israelites that all Israelites hearken unto and listen unto and seek guidance from. That doesn't exist. Okay? There's no one organization where all Israelites come up under one umbrella. That doesn't exist. Okay? So I want to make that clear for those who may be new, those who may happen upon this in the future, as well as those who may not agree with us, but you may be searching and looking and trying to figure out what's going on with Israelites. If you happen upon this video, understand that Israelites are not a monolith. Okay? All right. So, second point, we do not advocate for any form of criminality. Thirdly, we do not advocate for any form of violence against anyone, okay? Regardless of your nationality, regardless of your race, your ethnicity, whatever you want to call it, we do not advocate for violence against anyone, okay? We believe, as according to the Bible says in Romans chapter 12, verse 17 through 18, it says, "Recompense to no man evil for evil. Provide honest things in the sight of all men. If it be possible, as much as lieth in you, live peaceably with all men." We believe this is a principle that should be kept with all men, both Jew as well as Gentile. Some people may say, well, what about in cases of self-defense? Well, there's laws within this society that protect those who act in self-defense. Okay? You don't necessarily have to get my perspective. According to this society, if you act in the case of self-defense, okay, and you obviously, I'm assuming you would have to prove that you acted in self-defense, then there's laws that protect you. Okay? Also, we do not advocate, here's the fourth point. We do not advocate for any hatred of any people. Again, we do not advocate for hatred of any people. Hebrews 12:14 says, follow peace with all men and holiness, with which no man shall see the Lord. Meaning, if you don't follow peace with all men, the Bible tells you that you will not see the kingdom of God. Now, I know some people will try to scale this down and say that this means only with Israelites. Well, we don't believe that. We believe that these are principles that should be kept with both Jew as well as Gentile. Again, some people may say, well, what about self-defense? What if someone is assailing me? Again, there are laws within the society that protect you in those cases. Okay? But as far as just being in a normal situation, no one is assailing you, no one is attacking you, and you're asking what should be your conduct with both Jew as well as Gentile, this is the answer to that question. Okay? Follow peace with all men. Okay? Number 5. Here's the 5th point. Okay? We are not a militia or a paramilitary. Again, we are not a militia or a paramilitary. Why must I state this? Okay? What we try our best to do is to learn from the mistakes of many of the organizations that have come before us. Okay? Many of those who have, not just amongst Israelites, not just Israelites, but just movements in general within the black experience in America. Okay? And if we're to learn anything, okay, the whole image of, what would you call it? The whole image of using weapons as a way to pretty much enforce or push your beliefs is probably not the wisest thing to do. Okay? It's probably not the wisest thing to do. So we don't advocate for people to go out and try to brandishing weapons as a means of pushing their belief or pushing their faith or some type of show of force or some show of strength to be out there with weapons and things of that nature. We don't advocate for that. Okay? We don't advocate for people to go out and hoard and try to, hoard weapons and things of that nature as a means of saying that, we're going to stand up and we're going to fight this beast and we're tired of all of this and it's time for us to take a stand and, what you scared for, it's time for you to stand up and fight because the beast has been warned against us and it's time for us to fight against this beast. No. Okay? You will not find that amongst this church. Okay? If someone does come with that type of spirit, first and foremost, we understand that it's either one or two things. Okay? Either you have someone who is young and inexperienced in the spirit who needs to be corrected. So first and foremost, if that be the case, that someone is young and inexperienced, and they're looking at all these things on social media, and they're going through all of this information, and they're coming to the conclusion in their minds that somehow, some way, it's their responsibility to seek some form of revenge or to take up arms against people and things of that nature, that person must be corrected immediately. Okay? Not only must they be corrected immediately, there must be an understanding that we have to keep an eye on this person. Okay? If they're coming amongst us. Now, it could be another thing. I said it could be one or two things. That could be the case. And in some cases, someone may come with that spirit. They're corrected. They're amongst us and they kind of understand what we're about. And, that spirit is pretty much exercised, if you will. Okay? Now, you also have another element. Okay? You have an element of people who may come amongst the church, okay, may believe in what we teach, but they're not wrapped too tight. They have a few screws loose. Okay? And in that case, if someone is coming amongst us and there's some obvious things going on mentally, and this person comes with some type of rhetoric that it's time for us to fight against the beast, let's take up arms, let's do this, let's do that, then that person, we advise them to, before you come amongst us, you need to go and get some professional help. Okay? You need to get some professional help. You need to go to some form of counseling. You need to deal with something that will get you on track mentally. Okay? Because this is not the place for you. And I say that because if someone is not wrapped too tight, irregardless of what counsel you give them, to some degree, they have the propensity to be a loose cannon. Okay? They have the propensity to be a rogue, loose cannon who, irregardless of how much counsel you give them, their spirit is always going to draw towards whatever demon is operating within them. And it has nothing to do with them associating themselves with Israelites. And I want to make that clear. This whole thing of, and we're going to touch on this as we get into this presentation. There's this whole thing of associating people who commit heinous acts with their beliefs. When in reality, amongst all beliefs, you have people who are not wrapped too tight, who have a few screws loose. Okay? You have those who flew over the cuckoo's nest, and they find themselves amongst various organizations. Now, it doesn't help if that organization is advocating for acts of violence and things of that nature, or saying things which could be perceived as advocating for violence and things of that nature. Okay, it doesn't help. But there may be a situation in which there is no one is egging this person on and telling them that they must go out and take up arms and fight the beast and do this and do that. But this person, whatever's going on in their mind, they interpret it as, okay, it must mean they put us in captivity. So this must mean that I must take it upon myself and put it upon my shoulders to go out and get revenge for my people. There's no telling what people think when they, things are not right upstairs. Okay. So in that case, we let people know, please, this ain't the place for you. You probably want to go get some professional help. If I knew of someone, I would give you their contact information. But, this is your fight right now. This is your journey. You need to go find someone that can give you some professional counseling, and hopefully down the road, when things are right and things are screwed up upstairs, then maybe we can have a relationship in the future. But for now, this is not the place for you. Okay? So that must be understood. All right? So this is what we mean when we say that we are not a paramilitary or militia. Not that anyone would think that, but we got to make these things clear, because with these events, obviously they're making these various connections. So I want to make sure that that is understood. As Christ said in the book of St. John 18:36, Yeshua answered, "My kingdom is not of this world. If my kingdom were of this world, then would my servants fight." Meaning what? This is not Christ's kingdom. This is not our kingdom. Okay? We have no dog in this fight. Okay? We have no stake in this kingdom. There is no need for us to try to take up arms and try to go out and quote unquote fight the beast and fight the devil and finally get payback for what belongs to us or what was done to us. There's no need for that, because it don't belong to us anyway. This is not our kingdom. Okay? So if someone was to do so, or if someone calling themselves a leader would advocate for their followers to do so, meaning to go out and take up arms and things of that nature, automatically, according to the Bible, what? They are discredited. okay, they are discredited. Okay? So this is the beauty of having the Bible as your foundation. You're able to check your emotions and say to yourself, well, I know what I may be feeling. If those people are feeling that, I'm not feeling that. Elder Rawchaa is not feeling that. The elders are not feeling that. I'm pretty sure many of you are not feeling these feelings of, it's time to rise and take up arms. I'm pretty sure that's not in any of your minds, but I can't speak for anyone. I can only speak for myself, the elders of this church, and things of that nature. So I want to make that clear. Okay, so that if someone who is in this chat decides that, they want to pop up and be on someone's news outlet, on the front page of somebody's newspaper or what have you, that's your business. That has nothing to do with us. Okay, we don't believe in that. Okay, and again, to believe in that and to do so, you discredit yourself according to the Bible, and that's the beauty of the Bible. So that leads us to our last point. In fact, the second to last point: any organization that does advocate for these aforesaid things, meaning if you advocate for criminality, if you advocate for believing in anything outside of the Bible, if you advocate for violence, then eventually your organization will fall. Okay? And that's not me speaking. Again, that's Christ speaking. Therefore, whosoever heareth these things, this is Matthew 7:24-27. Therefore, whosoever heareth these things, or these sayings of mine, and doeth them, I will liken him unto a wise man which built his house upon a rock, and the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, for it was founded upon a rock. And everyone that heareth these sayings of mine, and doeth them not, meaning, if you hear what Christ says that my kingdom is not of this world, therefore my servant shall not fight. Okay? If you hear that and you do the opposite, you advocate or you advise those who are under you or those who follow you, those who respect your word, who would move at your command, if you tell them and advise them to do anything against Christ, or if you advise them to take up arms, then you're a person who heard the sayings of Christ and did them not. If you read the biblical commandments against criminality, against murder, against rape, against stealing, against lying and bearing false witness, against abuse of women and children and even men, if you're abusing men, you are seeing what Christ says, you're seeing what God says, you're seeing what the Bible says, you're seeing what the commandments say, and you're doing the opposite. Okay? So Christ says that those who hear his word and do the opposite, it says that they shall be likened unto a foolish man which built his house upon the sand. The rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and beat upon that house, and it fell not, or it fell, Salakia, and great was the fall of it. Okay? And you don't need me to tell you this. You've seen many examples going back, just not Israelites, but the black experience in general. Any organization that was not founded upon the principles of Christ fell. No matter how glorious it may have looked or how mighty and powerful it may have seemed when they were at their height, because it was not founded upon Christ, it fell. Okay? Last but not least, we are simply servants. We are simply servants, which means we're not prophet. We don't call ourselves prophets. We're not prophets. We don't call ourselves apostles and high priests and chief high priests and chief holy apostles. We don't call ourselves any of those things. We're simply servants. We don't believe that we're prophets from the past or some highly regarded person from the past. For some of you, that may sound strange, but you do have people that believe in reincarnation and think that there's someone from the past. People believe that they're Moses. People believe that they're Joshua. People believe that they're the prophet Isaiah. People believe all kinds of things about themselves. Okay? And that's just the nature of the world we live in. But if you're talking about the gathering of Christ's church, we don't believe any of those things. We are simply servants. Okay? 1 Peter 5:1-3 states, The elders which are among you I exhort, whom am also an elder, and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, and also a partaker of the glory that shall be revealed. Feed the flock of God which is among you, taking the oversight thereof, not by constraint, but willingly, not for filthy lucre, but of a ready mind. Neither as being lords over God's heritage, but being ensamples, meaning examples, to the flock. So that is our responsibility, okay? We're servants. We're here to feed the sheep. We're here to live as examples, okay? Exactly. No one says that they were a janitor. Like, with everyone that's reincarnated just so happens to be someone glorious from the past. No one is Judas reincarnated. No one is King Saul reincarnated. No one is Acon reincarnated who stole the Babylonian garments and his whole family was killed. No one is Corin and Dathan reincarnated who in the wilderness rebelled against Moses and Aaron, and their whole family was swallowed up straight to the pits of hell. No one wants to be those people reincarnated. Okay? Everyone that's reincarnated has to be somebody glorious. Has to be King David. Has to be King Solomon in his righteousness. But no one wants to live out King Solomon in his fall. Okay? Everyone is the prophet Isaiah. Everyone is Matthew the disciple. Everyone is the apostle Paul. Everyone is Peter. Okay? But if you truly believe in reincarnation, then somebody has to be Judas. Judas has to be back according to your philosophy. Okay? Korah and Dathan, they have to be back according to your philosophy. Okay? But nonetheless, that's another conversation for another day. I just want to make it clear that here in the Gathering of Christ Church, we're letting you know that we don't believe any of it. Okay? We don't believe in reincarnation. We don't believe we're somebody from the past. So no one can come and say that we have proclaimed that we are some prophet, some holy man, some prophet from the past who came back to lead the nation of Israel to the promised land. No one can say that because we don't believe that. We don't teach that. Okay? We're simply servants. And it's to the degree, and I know it's probably a list of brothers and sisters who are probably have an offense with me because I haven't answered their phone calls. When I get into some of these academy lessons, I try to block out anything that can be a distraction. So if your phone call hasn't been answered in this week or past week, understand I'm working on a lot of things. So I will get back with you. Okay? And I'm saying that to say this. Okay? I'm saying that to say this. Okay? We are not in people's lives 24/7 trying to regulate and be lords over people's households. Okay? I'm not picking up the phone 24/7 trying to figure out how I can ease my way into your household and somehow, some way become a lord of your household. Okay? We don't do that. We give you the information. It is your responsibility to live your life according to the information. We guide you as best as we can. If you seek counsel, we'll give you counsel. Okay? Now, if there's some things you being associated with us, and there's some things going on with you that's going on in your household that is either criminality or things that, could somehow be linked to this church and be seen as, some type of, again, criminality. Obviously, we're going to try to figure out what's going on so that we can know how we need to move going forward as concerning you. But outside of that, we're not trying to be in people's lives and in people's households. We're not being held up by sticks. We're not looking to be worshiped by anyone. We're simply servants. Okay? We are simply servants. All right? All right. Okay, moving on. Let's get to the presentation. I want to make this clear as well. One last point. I got to make these things clear because people make all types of statements and accusations when it comes to money. Okay? Understand. As we're not trying to be lords over your household, we also are not trying to be lords over your bank account. Okay? There should be no situation where someone is reaching out to you trying to figure out what your tax statement was, what you got on your income tax. No one should be trying to figure out what you make every month or every year or every week as a means of trying to somehow manage your finances. We are not financial analysts. We're not financial planners. Okay? We try our best to plan financially for our homes. Okay? And if there's someone who needs help, we try to help financially for those who need help. But we're not looking into people's bank accounts trying to figure out what people got going on financially as a means of figuring out what can we get from this said brother or sister. There have been situations where people either through a lawsuit or people may come into some money, they may be blessed, okay, what have you, and they may come to us and ask, what should we do with the money? And we say, listen, the Bible says 10% belongs to the church. Outside of that, you have the freedom to do whatever it is you want to do with your money. Okay? You have the freedom to do what you want to do with your money. Okay? It's between you, the Most High, and your bank account. Okay? If you want guidance on investments and things of that nature, listen, speak to a financial analyst. If you want to know what type of investments are the best investments to make, do some research. Okay? This is not a place where you're going to come and now we're going to tell you that, well, you got this amount of money. I was thinking about this restaurant business, so give me a portion of your money. Give me 70% of your money or 60% of your money so I can open this restaurant that I was thinking about or that the Most High put on my spirit. Okay? That's not going to happen amongst us. Okay? If it does, that's a problem. Okay? We're not like some of these guys out there selling, what do they call it? Status correction, how to become a free man and 3 easy steps and selling you packages for thousands of dollars or hands over fist. And here it is. You get pulled over in a real life situation trying to use this quote unquote status correction or well, I don't know what it's called. Many of you may know what this thing is called where they try to become quote unquote free men. And they say that it's not in the jurisdiction of the police to do certain things to you. And when you go to court, just say this and the judge will have to, pretty much leave out the courtroom and you're a free man, a free citizen, so they can't do anything to you. You can drive without a license and all these various things. I forget what they call it. Okay. But you have people who sell these things and the person gets in a situation where they need it and it never works. Okay. So you're not going to find that amongst us. Okay. There are no investments amongst us that someone can come in and say, okay, come put this in my food truck or come put this. I'm trying to open up a record studio or a record company. Come invest in this record company. Okay. It don't happen like that. The Bible says 10%. Whatever you decide to do after you give that 10%, that's between you and the Most High. That's between you and your bank account. That's between you and your financial advisors or what have you. That's between you and them. A straw man, that's what they call it, okay? A straw man, okay? You're not going to, we don't deal with that, okay? There's a lot of scams. I'm not going to say necessarily I'm just going to say with people in general. Again, it does not. This is another thing we have to learn. I'm gonna get into the presentation, okay? Because I want your guys' perspective. There's a lot of things that are going to go on in organizations, irregardless of what they may either profess or what they believe. What I mean by that is whether you profess to be a Christian organization, you're gonna have things that go on in the Christian organization that are non-Christ-like. Okay, if you're an Israelite organization, there's going to be things in the organization that may take place that are against the principles of being an Israelite who follows Christ. Okay, that's just the nature. That's the nature of people. Okay, you're going to have people coming with all walks of life or from all walks of life, people with different backgrounds. Okay, and they may profess, they may acknowledge the information, whether They profess to be a Christian, an Israelite, or what have you. Irregardless of what they profess, they may acknowledge the information as being true. However, they may come into an organization and the thing or that old man or old woman they were trying to run from is still with them. You may have a person who was a scam artist in the world and may come into a church or come in amongst a quote unquote camp, and they just haven't stopped being a scam artist, a con man, okay, or a con woman. Okay, that's just the spirit that they deal with, irregardless of what they profess to believe in. The spirit of scam artists is still with them. Okay, did we say that he was scamming people because of his Israelite faith and it was the Hebrew Israelism that turned him into a scam artist? Or do we say that this person was a scam artist? This person learned the information, they learned the truth, that it was wrong to be a scam artist. And for whatever reason, they may have endured for a while, but after a while, maybe they fell on hard times and the only way they knew to make money was to scam. Okay, so they started scamming people. Can we say that it's because of Hebrew Israelism that this person scammed people? No. This is just how this person operates. Okay, same thing if they're in the Christian church. Can I say that he's a scam, that his Christian faith fueled his scamming? No. Okay, this person may have come amongst the church. They may have told him, hey, you can't steal. That's wrong. You can't lie. You can't be a con. They may have told him that or told her that. And instead of that person heeding to that, they may have obeyed for a while. But again, people fall on hard times and they make poor decisions. They may have backslid and went back into stealing and scamming. Okay, I can't say that because of his Christian faith that he scammed and he stole. That's not fair. Okay, and that goes for other things. Okay, but nonetheless, let's get into this. Okay, all right. So again, over the years, okay, and I gotta get to this because oh man, we got 20 minutes on the calls. All right, let me. No. We don't want to end the episode. Okay, let me see here. All right. Over the years, we've seen several individuals, organizations, and media outlets which have been deemed alternative, removed from some of the most notable media platforms, whether it be YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or what have you. Though we may not agree with all the views that are shared by these various content creators, we must ask the question, is there a bias against anyone who does not agree with the views of mainstream media? If so, why do you believe there's a bias? And lastly, where do you think all of this censorship is heading? Okay. I'm going to see if some people are actually in the calls. I see someone with their hands raised. I'm going to see if anyone has a perspective on this before I go into the actual presentation. We got 20 minutes left. I don't know how this happened. Well, I do know how it happened. I started a bit late. So let me try to see here. We got the 631 area code, last four digits, 0073. All right, you're live on Blog Talk. Do you have a question or a comment? Okay, let me go back here. Again, 631, last four digits, 0073. You have a question or a comment? Okay, they're putting it on mute. All right, so I'm assuming I'm going to move on. Okay, 678, last four digits, 2535. You have a question or a comment? If not, we'll just move on. Okay, seems like no one has a question or a comment at this time, so we'll just proceed forward with the presentation. But it seems like based on the time, based on how much time we have after we finished, we may not have, the calls may be actually shut down. I'm not sure if Blog Talk still does the overtime. So if you want to get in and if you have a question or comment on anything that we're going to bring out, just make sure you get in there now. And even if it shuts down, and we may have the ability to do overtime, but I'm not sure if that's still an option on Blog Talk. Okay. Someone says your straw man is an artificial person on the birth certificate. Yeah, I get that. I understand that. I understand some of the, some of the various information, which it is true information. My point is that usually People get into these various scenarios, and none of that information helps them in these scenarios. Okay? But it's not saying that the information is not true. Okay? And it doesn't mean that because if it is true, that people should be scammed into buying these packages, which will guarantee them to be a free man or a straw man, or whatever it's called, and be scammed out of their money and still be a slave. Okay, but now moving on. So let me give you all some examples. We all have some examples of over the few years of those who have been removed from social media, such as YouTube and Twitter, Facebook, and all of these various platforms that we've all been drawn to, platforms which initially were promoted as outlets for just the everyday Joe Schmo to voice their opinions and post videos and things of that nature. But the last few years, we've really seen a turn in which these same media companies or social media companies have been exercising a lot of censorship against certain viewpoints. Okay, so the first example, make sure you all can see me. Okay. Let's give some examples of those who have been removed from these outlets. Okay, let me adjust this just for a second, and then we will let you all see this. All right, just a moment. All right, that should be good. Let me not take too much time on this. All right, that should be good. All right. Perfect. Okay, so here's an example. All right. I'm not sure. This looks like alternative media, an alternative news source. Okay, called Deadline. But nonetheless, the information is true in the sense that they're just reporting something that happened a few years ago with at some point, a very popular personality associated with alternative media, associated with what is called conspiracy theories. We saw this person removed from the very popular social media platform, YouTube. Okay? The article says YouTube removes InfoWars videos, suspends alt-right channel from live broadcast. YouTube has deleted 4 videos on the InfoWars channel for violating policies that ban hate speech and graphic content. The videos, which are now posted on the alt-right website, include host Alex Jones going off on how Muslims are taking over Europe, as well as another one of him insulting the animated series Drag Tots. Now, I don't know what that is. That sounds off. It sounds like it's against the Bible, but let's proceed. And I want to say this as well. As we read this, we're not saying that we agree with every statement that Alex Jones has ever made. We're not saying that we agree with every one of his segments or every point or whatever the case may be. In other words, we're not saying that we agree with all the information that he has put forward over the years. We're just using this as an example of someone who is associated with alternative media, someone who has been deemed a conspiracy theorist, who has been removed from the popular social media platform YouTube. That's the only. Oh, Lord have mercy. Okay, so this thing Drag Tots follows Drag Queen Tot. Wow, Lord have mercy. Okay, so this is why this is why he was removed according to their statement on this article. This is why he was removed from YouTube. Okay, no comments. I'm just going to move on. Okay, I'm just reporting. I'm trying to stay non-biased. French President Macron pretends crime rates and migrants are not related, while another titled How to Prevent Liberalism Features an older man physically assaulting. Okay, so we pretty much got the gist. We see an example of, again, someone who was removed from YouTube. Some may say for good reason. Some may disagree. Okay. Some may say, well, we don't agree with everything, but there is some good points that may come out. And some may say, well, because he's alt-right, and conservative, that must mean that he's somehow associated with racism and probably doesn't like black people. And because of that, irregardless of what he said, true or not, that's good enough reason to remove him from YouTube. Some people may take that position. Okay. If you do, that's your prerogative. Okay. That's fine. All right. Moving on to the next one. All right. This is what I mean about the glitch. I'm getting a little glitch here. So excuse me if things take a little time to pull up. Okay. All right. Moving on to another example. Okay. That's not the one we want. That's not the one we want. That's not the one we want. We don't want that either. Okay. We don't want that. Okay. Let's go back. Let's get the one we want. Okay. Just a moment. Okay. In fact, listen, you guys know some of the, you guys can probably give me some names of people who were pulled off. I had some other examples, but it doesn't look like I have the article here. So we'll just move on. Okay. For the sake of time anyway. But let me see here. Yeah. So we don't have it up here. So that's fine. All right. You all know some examples. You all can probably give some examples of people who were deplatformed over the years. And when I say deplatformed over the years, more specifically for views that were or that have been or considered conspiracy theorists or alternative media. Okay, let me look at some of your responses. You probably can give me some names of some of these people. Okay. Another one we had actually was called True News. I know some of you. I know some of you are familiar with this media outlet called True News. In fact, let me try to pull that one up. Okay. Yeah, I know. We have to keep stopping, and we got to make these disclaimers. We got to make these statements and make sure that there's no telling. I looked up yesterday a list of words on social media that are flags. And if you saw this list, I mean, pretty much you won't be able to speak soon enough based on some of these words that create flags. So we got to make sure that as we go on, we clarify a lot of things. And also on top of that, Mike Adams, that's an example. Okay. That's an example. Yeah, we want to make sure that at least when we bring some of these things out, we're not at least for this sometimes we just have to bring it out and make sure it's straight and according to the word of the Most High and just come with the straight fire. But with this one, I want to try to make sure that you kind of put forth your ideas. I don't want to shape your ideas. Okay. So. Okay. Blog Talk is back up. Okay, great. Okay, great. Okay, we got Dana White, Rush Limbaugh. Again, some people may say, well, yeah, he's racist or he's a bigot, he's alt-right, conservative. So, irregardless of what he says, he should be deplatformed. Whether what he says is true, whether it's false, he should be deplatformed because of his, or what some may perceive as his view towards black people. Okay. So again, if that's that's what you prefer to take away from that, then that's fine. That's your prerogative. Again, if you believe that people should be deplatformed based on that, then hey, that's who am I? Okay. Someone says they noticed a couple of our videos were banned in the country. Well, believe it or not, we just recently, it wasn't too long ago that we weren't able to stream on this particular, we weren't able to stream on this page. We had to use GOCC NYC as a means to actually stream. Okay. All right, let me get some more names. We got Jordan Maxwell, okay. DL Hughley, okay. I'm not sure if he was deplatformed, but if he was, that's an example, okay. Okay, Rush Limbaugh passed away, okay. All right, thank you, Tawana, for clarifying. Okay. How could I forget? Donald Trump, the president himself, the former president himself, was deplatformed. How could I forget? Again, some people may say, well, based on his views and based on some of the things he said, some of the outlandish things he said, based upon that, he should be deplatformed. He should be taken off of YouTube. He should be taken off of Twitter. He should be taken off of Facebook based on some of his viewpoints and some of his statements, some of his comments. He should be deplatformed. Okay. Joe Rogan. Okay. Again, a lot of people say because of what he said, using the N-word and things of that nature, he should be deplatformed. Okay. And again, on all of these points, I have my personal view, but I'm not necessarily at this point going to share that. But yes, some nurses and doctors have been banned. Okay. All right. So you all gave some great examples that even I forgot about. So yes, we've seen some examples of people who have been deemed either alternative or may have presented alternative views. And because of that, were deplatformed. Or some may have, said some things and according to media narratives, okay, may have incited some things according to what they profess or what they have reported in the news, right? So, here's the thing. It sounds okay, okay? And again, this is not me being biased. This is me just presenting a perspective. And I want you all to give your perspective. Okay. It sounds okay that if someone is spewing what is considered alt-right conservative racism, or using certain words that are deemed racist, or presenting certain viewpoints that are deemed racist viewpoints, or alt-right viewpoints, that it's okay, irregardless of what, hey, they may say some things that are true, they may say some things that are false, but nonetheless, we should simply focus on their views. Again, they may have certain views which may be considered or deemed racist, but based upon that, we should deplatform them and move them from social media. Okay? So, if you agree with that, then you have to deal with it from both ways. You have to look at it from both sides of the spectrum. Okay? Because it's not only the so-called alt-right conservative that some may deem racist or some may deem are presenting conspiracy theories, or those who may be deemed as, alt-right conservative. It's not just those people who have been deplatformed. Okay? We've seen other examples. And these are people who, many of you, who may say it's okay to remove some of the alt-right conservative underlying racism. It's okay to remove that, but when it comes to others that I agree with, it's not okay. Okay? when it comes to people that I agree with their viewpoints, it's not okay. They shouldn't be this platform. Others should, but others shouldn't. Okay? You're now moving down a slippery slope. Okay? And here's some examples. Okay? We remember this a few years ago. Okay? Louis Farrakhan is banned from Facebook. Now, again, we're not saying that we believe in every single thing that Farrakhan says. Again, we're Bible believers. We believe in the Bible. Okay? We're not Muslims. We don't believe in Islam. Neither do we believe in the Quran. Okay? So, I want to make that clear. However, like anyone else, like someone may say for Alex Jones, like someone may say for Donald Trump, like someone may say for Joe Rogan, irregardless of some of the things they may have said that we don't agree with, there's things that they have said that we do agree with that do make sense. Okay? There's some things that they do say that do make sense, or might make sense, or in certain circumstances may give an alternative view than what's being promoted by mainstream media or what's being reported by mainstream media. And when I hear those alternative reports, hey, it makes sense. Okay? So, on that same token, for those who are against them just simply because they are deemed or they may be labeled as alt-right conservative racist, for those who hold that viewpoint, what happens when the people that you respect, okay, like say a Louis Farrakhan, many people respect Minister Louis Farrakhan. I mean, you can't help but respect one of the greatest orators of our generation and probably one of the greatest this earth has ever seen, at least in our time. And again, brings a lot of good, solid points in some of what he says. And some things are not so good. But nonetheless, should he be deplatformed? Okay? Should he be deplatformed? Okay? Because the same way, you may say, well, let's ban the alt-right racist. On the other side, there may be people saying, well, Farrakhan, he says some things that we deem to be racist. So because of that, irregardless of what he says, whether some is true, whether some of the things he says make sense, maybe we should move him away from or move him off of social media as well. Not because of the information, whether we believe it's true or not, but simply because we just don't agree with some of his statements that we deem to be racist or promoting racist ideas. Okay? So what I'm trying to say is that the sword can sometimes cut both ways when we're talking about censorship and the slippery slope we go down when we start to make judgments on who or who shouldn't be allowed to speak on social media. So it says here, Facebook is banning a number of people who the social media site considers to be dangerous, quote unquote. The company said on Thursday that the Nation of Islam leader, Louis Farrakhan, will be permanently banned from Facebook. So will Alex Jones, Milo Yiannopoulos, and Laura Loomer. Alex Jones and his InfoWars site were already banned from Facebook, but this latest ban will also take Jones and InfoWars off Instagram, which Facebook owns. Facebook didn't give any details about why it had decided to ban or the issue the ban. The company did issue a statement saying that it had a policy of banning those who promote violence or hatred, regardless of where they were or where they stand on the political spectrum. Now, I don't claim to be an expert on Louis Farrakhan, and I can't say I watched every single Louis Farrakhan speech, but at least in recent times, I haven't seen or heard anything from him that advocates for violence. Okay? But that's another discussion for another day. Okay? That's another discussion for another day. Okay? I probably could say the same thing for Alex Jones, but I don't necessarily follow Alex Jones. Even when he was on YouTube, I didn't follow him as much. So again, I can't account for everything these people say. Again, these are just examples of people who have been deplatformed, who gave what the world considers alternative views. All right, going on to some more examples. Okay, some more examples. YouTube removes rapper Wally's channel over repeated violations. British rapper has already been banned from Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram following a series of posts widely regarded as anti-Semitic. Okay, again, not saying that we can agree with every single a statement that someone makes. Okay, but the whole point is that, listen, we're talking about censorship. We're talking about freedom of speech. What can someone say? What is someone allowed to say? Who can they say it concerned? Like, who can they speak about? Who they can't speak about? You know, all of these are conversations that come up when we're talking about censorship on social media. And of course, we understand that these are privately owned corporations, privately owned companies, such as, you know, Facebook, Twitter, and all these other platforms. We understand they're privately owned. And yes, they can decide, you know, who they want on their site and who they don't want on their site at the end of the day. They own the site, they can make the decision. But however, as users of these sites, you kind of want to get a bead on where the line is drawn so that you know, why are some things allowed and some things aren't allowed. Okay, we say that we are against things that advocate for violence and that can be considered dangerous, but at the same time, we have a whole segment of YouTube dedicated to things such as music and other things, various conversations that take place that are posted on YouTube that advocate for violence outright. Okay, I mean, I'm pretty sure everyone in this particular chat or in this live has heard of drill music. Okay. And listen, me personally, I don't listen to drill music, but I also understand how they're using that narrative as a means of pushing more either propaganda or laws that will eventually oppress and suppress our communities. I understand that as well. I'm not advocating for the music. I don't agree with what goes on in the music, but I also understand that it's another problem reaction solution. It was these platforms such as YouTube and other social media that made the music popular, that gave it an out to become what it is today. Okay, so now to come on the back end and now try to say that, well, because of this, we have to get tougher on crime because of the crime that's happening, and, you know, especially in New York City and other places, it seems like more of a problem reaction solution thing, but that's another conversation for another day. I bring that up because you have an obvious outlet on YouTube which is advocating for violence. Not only is it advocating for violence, it's also reporting violence. Okay? This is who I shot last week. This is who I shot last month. Now let me make a song about it. This is who I want to shoot next week. This is who I want to shoot next month. Let me make an album about it. Okay? That should be, you know, a more obvious situation to look at and say, okay, this is promoting dangerous content that we now have to look at and examine and possibly deplatform. Okay? But it seems like it's more so focusing on things that are providing alternative views. Some of them are true, some of them aren't, but nonetheless, I don't believe that these views, and this is me personally, I don't believe that these views are put out with malicious intent. Okay? Others may have a different perspective, but nonetheless, okay, I don't believe that the alternative views are put out with a malicious intent. Okay? All right, people asking what's drill music? Okay. Maybe you don't know what drill music is. Just go to YouTube and type in drill music, and you tell me, should that be deplatformed? Okay? You tell me if that should be deplatformed. But nonetheless, I mean, if anything, okay, if anything is to be deplatformed, you know, it should be that stuff. Okay? But nonetheless, yeah, I understand. We got various ages here in the chat. Okay. Okay. Someone says Glenn Beck. That's another example of someone who was deplatformed. Yeah, if you don't know about it, just type it into YouTube. It'll come up, and you tell me. You give me your opinion on what that is. Okay? And someone says super violent rap music. Listen, violent rap music has been around since, the advent of, I guess you would say, hip-hop, or whatever you want to call it. But the difference is these guys are not just rapping about it. Okay? That's the thing. Okay? So with that, I put that out there to say that, again, if we have to know where the line is drawn, and I'm pretty sure other content creators want to know, where is the line drawn? Where do we say that something is promoting violence and hatred, and now because of that, we got to pull it back, versus other things that are promoting violence and hatred, criminality, but yet it seems like it's kind of pushed to the forefront. Okay? It seems like it's kind of popularized. Right? Where are we going with this? Okay? So, all right. Yeah, just type it in YouTube. Okay? I probably know about as much about it as you do. For those who say that they're older, never heard of it, I know just about as much as you do, but you can't, there's certain platforms you cannot go on without hearing about it. Okay? I'm going to tell you right now, I never sat down and listened to an album or a song or what have you, but again, there's certain platforms and certain content creators, you can't go on their platform without them either speaking or making mention of this type of music. Okay? And the effect it's having on the community. Okay? So again, and the only reason I bring it up is because, again, that's an example of something that is promoting violence and hatred. So if these platforms are against that, why is this allowed? Why does it seem like it's popularized? Why does it seem like it's pushed to the forefront? Whilst alternative views that may be outside the mainstream, views that may be, out there for some people. Why does it seem like those things are? Why does it seem like those things are more so silenced, opposed to other things that are outright promoting violence and hatred and criminality? But moving on, okay. Moving on. Okay. Because there's another element that I want to highlight before we bring in the calls. I'm not sure if you can still call in, but if you can, please call in and give me your perspective. There's another element to this. Okay. Right. Absolutely. So, another element we're seeing, and we have been seeing, is that recently this seems like kind of a new phenomenon. Okay, and that phenomenon is this. Hey man, Wigga, what's going on with your? I don't know what you got going on with your screen page, but it don't look kosher. You gotta change this. If someone can block that, and Wigga, when you come in, you gotta change that. I don't know what it is. I don't profess to know what you got there, but it don't look kosher. Okay? Yes, violence in rap is the worst. Absolutely. Okay? And it has a profound negative effect on our community. So yes, we understand. Okay? Yeah, Wigga, you got to do something about that picture, that profile picture. I'm getting very uncomfortable with what you got going on there. Okay? Okay, come back. You've been hidden. Come back with a picture of the sun's, the clouds or something like that. Because I don't understand what you got going on there. I can't really see it as small, but it don't look kosher from where I'm looking. Okay. All right. Oh, okay. Moving on. Okay. Now, what I was mentioning is that we're seeing a new phenomenon. Okay. We're seeing a new phenomenon where it seems like certain events that are taking place in the quote unquote real world are being associated with, just weird all the way around. Listen, I don't get it, but nonetheless, it seems like there's a thing where events that are taking place in the real world seems like they're being associated or attached to people's subscriptions. Okay, what people view on social media, who they're subscribed to. Okay, their YouTube activity, their Instagram or their Twitter activity, what they post on Facebook, or who they subscribe to on Facebook. Okay. Yeah, someone says they zoomed in. It's not a cloud. Yeah, I'm saying you should put some clouds up there. Put something up there that's not ambiguous. Okay. Put some clouds up there. Put some grass or something. Put some trees in your profile pic. Do something that's just, so we don't have to guess what's going on. Okay. But nonetheless, yes. So, let me give some examples. These are examples that you all have seen over the years, okay, of people professing that, or media professing that because because of their associations on social media or based upon who they were subscribed to, this had an effect on this person committing some type of act of either terrorism or some act of violence in real life, okay? And we've seen this over and over. Some people want to try to make it seem like it's a thing that's, in fact, I'm not even going to mention that. Let me just show you some examples. Okay. Here's one example. This is from the Daily Beast. This is from years ago. This is 2017. Okay. Or 2016. It was updated 2017. It says here, Pizzagate gunman liked Alex Jones. Again, the title of the article is Pizzagate gunman liked Alex Jones. A gunman took a rifle in apparently a bizarre online conspiracy into a friendly kid-friendly DC restaurant Sunday. The real-life consequences of made-up conspiracy theories swirling around a popular DC pizzeria became all too real when a gunman walked into the venue Sunday afternoon. During the presidential campaign, some elements of the alt-right began fueling the conspiracy that Comet Ping Pong was in fact a site of, I'm not sure if I can say that word. Okay. I'm just going to say a pedo ring. Maybe that's clean enough. Okay. Used by high-ranking members of the Democratic Party, dubbing that supposed conspiracy Pizzagate. Now I'm going to jump down where it says here, obviously they're connecting this to what's been said online. Him being linked to some type of conspiracy theorist that he bought into, and because of the misinformation of a conspiracy theory, he decided to take matters in his own hands. He decided to take up arms and try to attack this pizzeria. Okay? The conspiracy is untrue and easily disprovable. For example, the sex ring is supposed to be run out of the restaurant's basement, but the owner told the BBC, "We don't even have a basement." Okay. We don't have a basement. He said it, so it must be true. Now, again, I'm not saying yay or nay. I'm just saying that don't seem like any form of journalism. Okay. He just says they don't have a basement, and therefore we take it as gospel truth. I don't think that's how journalism works. Okay. But nonetheless, the fake news began proliferating on websites like 4chan and Reddit, especially a Reddit forum frequented by Trump supporters and the alt-right. So again, we see these real-life events being associated with online activity. It goes on to say on his Facebook account, on which he goes by Madison Welch, the would-be shooter likes both InfoWars and its host Alex Jones. Okay? So events taking place, which are deemed as acts of violence, acts of terrorism, being associated with online activity. What do you all think about this? Where's this all going? At the same time that certain information is being what? Is being censored. Where do you think this is all going? You all may remember this. Here's another example. This is from 2016. Baton Rouge officer shooter Gavin Eugene Long had extremist online persona. Cosmo Scepter. I don't know what that says, but I guess that's his online name. But notice again, back then, this was a big thing. When they were associating some acts of extremism that he committed in quote unquote real life, being associated with his activity online, his online persona. And if you look at the picture, I don't know if you call that, I'm not sure if that's a dashiki or whatever you call that, but it looks like he is associated with some form of Pan-Africanism, some type of African spiritualism, some type of conscious communityism, if you will. So obviously, anyone who is associated with that type of, with those viewpoints that are considered conscious or Africanism or anything of that nature, automatically there's someone that can be pulled up to say that because you believe in this, you are advocating for, or you're promoting, or, you know, your belief system or whatever you believe in drives people to commit acts of extremism. Okay? And whether that's the case or not is not that's not even the discussion. The discussion is that, or the fact remains is that these things are being associated, or these acts that are taking place in real life, quote unquote, are associated with online extremism or being radicalized online. So again, the question is, where is this all going? The gunman who attacked a half-dozen law enforcement officers on Sunday in Baton Rouge, killing 3 and wounding 3 others, has been identified as Gavin Eugene Long, a former Marine who assumed an extremist persona online and became increasingly outspoken after the controversial shooting of Alton Sterling, according to the state and federal law enforcement officials. Okay? So, that's another example. Let's move on and see what else we have. Okay, so this is from Music Feeds. It says here, Public Enemy's Professor Griff says white police officer accused him of training snipers after photo with Dallas shooter surfaced. This is also from 2016. Okay, here you see an image of someone who is, according to the reports, committed an act of violence. Some may even say an act of terrorism on the police force in Dallas. And they had a picture of him with Professor Griff. And again, we don't agree with all the viewpoints of Professor Griff. But again, this is just an example of them associating an act of terrorism or an act of violence with someone who has an online persona or someone who has a platform. Okay, here you see the connection. Okay, or at least the connection they tried or attempted to draw. It says Public Enemy member Professor Griff, real name Richard Griffin, says he has been accused of training snipers to kill cops by a white police officer, who he claims to have received a phone call from after a photo of him with Dallas shooter Micah Xavier Johnson surfaced online. Okay, so we see those examples. And again, Professor Griff, I believe, comes from more so an African spiritualist point of view. So again, it seems like it does not necessarily matter what your viewpoint is. Any platform or anyone who gives an alternative viewpoint on certain events, on certain things that are happening within the news that the mainstream media is driving towards a particular end game, anyone who comes with an alternative viewpoint, it seems like they're being tied to various events. Okay, and listen, whether you believe these people's point of view or not is out of the discussion. Okay, it's simply, why does it seem like these events are being only associated with alternative news? Like, is there ever a situation where mainstream media reports something and someone reacts to what's being reported by mainstream media in a harmful way? And because of that, mainstream media becomes deplatformed. Like, can something be said on CNN that drove someone to commit an act of terrorism based on what was reported by CNN, and CNN be held liable and deplatformed based on someone watching one of their segments and going out into the streets and committing an act of violence because of it? Can CNN be deplatformed? Okay. Can NBC or ABC, can they be deplatformed if someone watches one of their segments and decides to go out and commit some act of violence? Can they be held liable? Okay. And if the answer is no, then can the same thing be said, or can we hold online alternative media outlets, can they be held to that same standard? Okay? Can they be held to that same standard? Okay? Or is it just someone they liked? What if CNN, someone has CNN under their likes or under their subscriptions? Is CNN held accountable if that person commits a crime? Okay? Is Fox News, are they held responsible because someone watched Fox News, or they had them in their subscription, or they favorited some things from Fox News? Can they be deplatformed based on that person's activity online in association with Fox or CNN or NBC or what have you? Is that possible? Or can that can that action only be levied against alternative, quote unquote, conspiracy news? Okay. Elder Rawchaa states no, they can't because they are exempt. Okay. And if that's the case, then it seems like we're dealing with some type of bias here. Okay. It seems like we're dealing with some type of bias. Unless there's something I don't know. Maybe there have been some cases where they've been pulled up to task, CNN, Fox News, and some of the mainstream, where they've been called out and stated, hey, if you keep reporting these things, we're going to remove you from social media. We're going to remove your Twitter account. We're going to remove your YouTube account. We're going to remove your Facebook account. I don't know. Maybe that has come up in the past, but it doesn't seem like the same exact measuring stick is levied against the mainstream media if someone is connected with, or someone liked CNN online and they go out and commit a crime. It's not like CNN is held liable. Okay? So, let me ask you all. So that should that standard be levied against so-called alternative media? Just asking. Okay? Let's move on because we have some more examples before we close out or before we open up the calls. I'm not sure if you can still call in. If you can, I'll just kind of communicate through your chats and we'll do it that way. I'm sorry I started a little late and therefore we were not able to get to the calls in time. Okay, so let's get into this. Let's get some more examples that you all may be familiar with, may not be familiar with. You should be familiar with, but if you're not, it doesn't matter. We're going to make sure you're familiar before we're done. Okay, here's another one from the Independent Sentinel. Black Hebrew Israelite cohort believed to have targeted Jewish deli in Jersey City shooting. This happened in 2019, at the end of 2019. And here we saw the alt-right conservative. We've seen the so-called Pan-African, African spiritualist conscious connection. And also we're seeing the Israelite connection. Okay. It says here, the shooting that unfolded at a kosher market in Jersey City, New Jersey, Tuesday was a targeted attack, according to officials who say at least one of the suspects had published an anti-Semitic and anti-police post online before opening fire Tuesday. Officer Joseph Seals, a 39-year-old husband and father of 5, and 3 innocents were killed in the deli. At least one other Hasidic Jewish man was wounded. The Jewish victims and a store owner or a store worker were killed inside the deli, along with the two killers. Those are the images of the two killers. Okay. Don't look like, this is an example of what I was mentioning earlier. Don't look like the screws are wrapped too tight. Okay. Don't look like the screws are wrapped too tight, but nonetheless, here's the thing. It says here, David Anderson, one of the attackers, was part of Black Hebrew Israelites, or was part. I'm not sure what that means, but reading on, it says here, it It is a black anti-Semitic supremacist sect. He had extensive anti-police and racist posts online. The other killer is Francine Graham. Okay. So my question is, okay, first and foremost, I'm not sure if he has any association, or if he does, what is his association? And in fact, I'm not even going to go down that lane. We didn't have this discussion a million times. Okay, so I'm not even going to go down that lane. My question is, did he have any other associations online? What were his other associations online? Outside of just what's deemed as what they consider a cult or alternative or conspiratorial. Did this guy have a subscription to Netflix? Okay. Was he on Netflix watching violent movies and things of that nature? Maybe that triggered some of his actions. Who knows? Okay. But I don't think it's fair to say that because he was associated with what they call Black Hebrew Israelites, which there's no group called the Black Hebrew Israelites. Okay, you got to be more specific. Which organization did he come from? And did that organization advocate for him to commit the acts that he committed? Okay, if not, then I don't see how they made this link. And again, we've had this discussion a million times, but nonetheless, I'm just asking the question, is this fair? Okay. Is it possible he could have been watching, I don't know, he could have been watching Dead Presidents or one of those movies from back in the day. He could have been watching anything, and that sparked whatever was going on with him. Maybe he just wasn't wrapped too tight. Maybe she wasn't wrapped too tight. Maybe that has something to do with the acts they committed. And I'm not here to, did he have a Fire Stick? He got the Roku? He got Google TV? There's a lot of things that go on these platforms. Do they have YouTube? There's a lot of things that go on these platforms outside of Israelites or alternative media that can contribute to someone being influenced to commit acts of violence. Okay? Rockstar, did he play Grand Theft Auto? Does he play Call of Duty? Should Call of Duty be called into question? Okay? What else did he do online? Okay? If we're going to look at online activity, let's just not stop at Israelites. Or he may have left a post or favorited an Israelite video or left a post on an Israelite Facebook page. Okay? Who knows what his involvement was with Israelites? The reality is that from all the Israelites that I've seen that have made mention of this, no one knows him. No one has ever seen him amongst their organization. No one can account for him. Not saying he didn't belong to Israelites, but I don't think that had anything to do with. I don't think that you can pull that as the reason why he committed these acts. And let's say hypothetically it was. Okay, let's say hypothetically he took himself identifying as an Israelite as an excuse to go commit acts of violence. I mean, that was foolish. Okay, that was foolish if that was the case. And I'm just saying that's an if. Okay, the Bible doesn't advocate for that. As I showed you earlier, we know what the Bible says concerning this and trying to commit acts of violence based upon whatever your personal thing is that you may have against someone or may have against people or what have you. That's between you and the Most High. But the Bible does not advocate, or the Bible is not for you going out and committing acts of violence based upon whatever you are feeling personally. Okay? Yeah, there's a million things. Yeah, I mean, does he listen to Eminem? Does he, did he watch Tyler Perry? Why did I get married? Or what was the, Minister Society? Someone said. There's a million things that take place in media that can contribute to someone committing acts of violence. Okay, what album was he listening to before he went and committed these acts? I mean, if you're going to pull all these things into question, let's pull everything into question. Let's not just look at what you deem to be his religious faith, which probably wasn't really his religious faith, probably not something he really took seriously, probably favorited a few videos here and there, probably was a part of a group, who probably left the group 5-10 years ago and really after that didn't have any association Who knows? Okay, who knows? But if you're going to pull things in, let's pull it all in. Let's not just look at he had association with black Hebrew Israelites. Okay? But nonetheless, let's move on. Okay? So it goes on with this article. Okay? Goes on, and they have a video of Israelites going out and speaking and things of that nature. And this is what they'll do. And this is why we had a meeting just last week letting brothers know that when we hit the streets, there's protocols. Okay? You can't say what you want to say on the streets. Okay? You cannot say what you want to say and do what you want to do on the streets. There must be some form of discipline that is shown, not just in your actions, but what comes out of your mouth. Just because it comes to your mind don't mean that it's from the Spirit of God and that you must say it out of your mouth. Okay? So that's something we have to be mindful of as we hit the streets. And when we hit the streets, we're going to make sure that we conduct ourselves accordingly, according to ministers of Christ. Okay, this is, I think, the last one before I think we got one more article after, or two more articles, and then I'll open up to some of what you have to say. Okay? All right. This was the guy, what's his name? Frank James. This is from the Citizens Commission on Human Rights International, the mental health industry watchdog. Okay? I'm not sure if this is an official organization or what have you, but nonetheless. Going on here, it says, Frank James, the prophet of doom. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this guy is connected, or at least his so-called internet activity is connected to various different ideologies and beliefs. I believe one being Israelites, or somehow loosely associated with Israelites. I think the name of his channel was Prophet of Truth 88. Automatically, you hear Prophet of Truth. You know, that sounds like an Israelite page. But then he was connected to others who are within the social media realm that are very influential within the, I guess you would say, black social media realm. Okay? So they're connecting this guy to as many people as they can who are online. Okay? Who may be influential, who may give alternative views here and there. So let's see what it says here. Frank James, the Brooklyn subway shooter, is the latest in a horrifying timeline of mass shooters. CCHR International calls on the law enforcement and policymakers to do their research and expose the common link to violence and suicide that is exploding across the country. Lawya, getting a little tongue-tied. All right. Suspected subway terrorist Frank James, strapped on his gas mask, detonated 2 smoke bombs and then opened fire on his fellow passengers on the Brooklyn subway on the morning of April 12, 2020. James, who earlier referred to himself as the Prophet of Doom, wounded 10 and 13 others sustained injuries from the mayhem. Fortunately, his shooting spree did not result in any deaths, and James was apprehended on Wednesday. Okay, so we're going to stop there, but you know, there's other articles which kind of go into his possible beliefs. We showed one last week where someone was trying to associate him with Israelites. You know, there's other associations there as well. But we're going to leave that there. And just 2 more quick articles. Something I found very, very interesting. Something that you all may be familiar with. Okay, here you have the Black Identity Extremists. Okay. All right, you can check this out in your own time, how they have this new thing, especially for those who believe, as I mentioned earlier, if you believe that it's okay to remove people online because they are deemed as, white racists or alt-right conservative white supremacists and they should be removed. That sounds good, okay? But what happens when now they start labeling black people as identity terrorists? And now the things that you agree with which pump up and give you some sense of self-pride and make you feel good as a black man or a black woman, is now being labeled as identity extremism that needs to be removed from all platforms. Okay, what do? Do you have the same energy, and do you still hold the same belief that anything that is deemed radical or anything deemed racist or anything deemed alternative should now be removed just because? Okay, or should a line be drawn? Okay. Something I thought was very interesting. I'm not sure if I have the article up here. Okay. This is something that came out a few years ago. It says here, let me take this back a little bit. It says here, this is from Forbes.com, you must not do your own research when it comes to science. Okay, many of you are familiar with this. Last year, when people were starting to come to the forefront and make mention of certain things that seem inconsistent with the narrative of the campaign, okay, they started telling people, listen, don't do your own research when it comes to science. Do not do your own research. And to a degree, I can kind of get what they're trying to say. If you're not an expert, you are liable to make inconsistent or incorrect statements and present misinformation. Okay, that is a possibility. So from that standpoint, I understand. Okay, but here's the problem. This is from Newsweek, and many of you are familiar with this. I don't know why they have these grotesque images on the thing. Let me go here. It says, Twitter suspends account of Chinese virologists who claim coronavirus was made in a lab. Okay, again, Twitter suspends account of Chinese virologists. So this is not a Joe Schmo with a YouTube account. This is not a Joe Schmo with a Twitter account or a social media account. This is an actual trained virologist who was suspended from social media for, who was suspended from social media for claiming that the, what do you call this stuff without flagging it? Okay, what's the name? What's some of the name? What's some of the names you guys call this thing in order for yourself not to be flagged? I forget. It's been so long I talked about this. I don't know what to call it anymore. Okay. Okay. I guess you would call it the C-19. I'm not sure. I'm not sure if that causes a flag, but let me see some of the responses you guys have here. Okay, the COCO. Okay, I like that. That's kind of a good measure. That's a nice one. Okay, so we're going to call it the COCO for the time being. Again, it's been so long since I talked about this. I forget the code words we were using. So I'm going to call it the COCO for the time being until I come up with something a little better. The COCO 19, or maybe that may be giving it away a little bit. But nonetheless, this person is a virologist. Okay. I'm assuming that you could deem this person an expert based on their expertise in the field. And they were suspended. So which one is it? Do not do your own research when it comes to science. Well, the scientists do the research and they're suspended from social media. There was another one. I had. Let me pull it up real quick. And that'll be the last thing before I open up and get some of your responses. Okay. There was one more on that topic. One more on this topic. Just one moment. Let me pull it up. Okay, got you, Elder Rawchaa. Okay, got you. So I wasn't called in the blog talk. That's why I couldn't hear the people. Okay, that's fine. Okay. There's one more I wanted to pull up on that topic. Okay, here's another one. This is from the Metro. Prominent Jew scientists banned from Twitter for spreading anti-Jews content. Okay, let me go here again. Prominent Jew Lawya scientists banned from Twitter for speaking anti-Jews content. Okay, it says Dr. Robert Malone has been banned from Twitter and his 500,000 followers. So again, which one is it? Okay, that's another one I had there. Okay, so which one is it? Is it don't do your own research when it comes to the science? Is that for the Joe Schmo? Okay. Or are you just saying don't do any research whatsoever, whether you're Joe Schmo, whether you're a scientist? Because it seems like the Joe Schmo stepped back and said, well, listen, let the professionals work. Let the scientists come out. Let the virologists come out. So they've come out and they've published their findings, and it seems like they also have been censored. So which one is it? Is it because they have said something that is dangerous? Is it because they've given misinformation? Is it because they've said something that may promote violence? Or is it simply that they have promoted something or have said something or reported something that is an alternative view from the mainstream? And if so, if you can be banned, even if you're an expert, if you can be banned and deplatformed from sharing your findings because it does not go with the mainstream narrative, where is all of this going? Where are we heading with the censorship that we're finding on social media? So let me call in the black that's trying to make a comeback. They're trying to put certain things in place to have this thing make a comeback, but it seems like people are kind of pushing a little bit and saying, no, we did it before, and we're not looking forward to going under this whole thing again. But nonetheless, that's another conversation for another day. That's another conversation for another day. Let me call into Blog Talk and let me get some of your perspectives on some of this that we've been bringing out. Okay. Going to take calls for about maybe 15 minutes. I'm not going to be here long. Okay. And in fact, let me check something real quick. Then after that, we will close out. After that, we will close out. Okay. Just a second. Let me pull up this Blog Talk. Okay, got it. Okay, let me see here.
Blog Talk Radio. Welcome to Blog Talk Radio. Please hold and you will be able to listen to the show.
Unmuted.
Okay, Shalom family. We're currently live on Blog Talk. So again, if you have any questions or comments on tonight's topic, again, the topic is a famine in the land Is there a war against alternative views? Over the years, we've seen several individuals, organizations, and media outlets which have been deemed alternative removed from some of the most notable media platforms. Though we may not agree with all the views that are shared by these various content creators, we must ask, is there a bias against anyone who does not share the views of mainstream media? If so, why do you believe that this bias exists? And lastly, where do you think all of this censorship is heading? First caller we have here is 631, last four digits, 0073. You're live on Blog Talk. Do you have a question or a comment?
I have a comment and a question, but I'm going to start off by answering your question. Do I believe that there's a bias? Of course there's a bias. It's from on top, the elite. Basically, they're trying to kill off the population. They got to get the population down. They want to get everybody poisoned and to kill them off. And anyone who's going to come with a dissenting voice that will give people information that will save their lives, they're going to run them off of whatever platform is necessary to run them off so that they can fulfill their agenda. They spend billions of dollars trying to fulfill this agenda, and they don't want that money to go to waste. They need everyone dead, and that's what they're going to try to do. Where is it going? That's where it's going. They want everyone dead. But I have a question as well.
Okay.
You still there? Yes. I met someone online. He's 24. He's in Texas. He wants to congregate. He wants to get vaccinated. Your website doesn't have the necessary information for something like that. They don't have like church locations or email addresses or whatever. So it's come to the extent where I need to like call into the live stream to try to get this type of information. So like, what can I do to get this person congregated and baptized and into the church?
Which area are they in?
They're in Texas. I live a bit close to Dallas.
Okay. Let me take down your number. I'll make sure Elder Rawchaa gets your number. And with Elder Rawchaa, you can switch or exchange contacts so that you can get the necessary information to that brother so that he can fellowship.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your call. All right. Moving on. We got the 503 area code, last four digits, 4638.
Hey, shalom, Elder Lawya.
Shalom.
Yeah, I had a question. I was wondering if you guys, I don't know if it's just an idea I'm passing you guys, wonder if you guys can hire some brothers and sisters as far as, because I don't know if this would be great, but we do need somebody who would take calls for people who are trying to get baptized, because I have called you several times trying to get baptized, and no one has called me back. Somehow, some way, where somebody, a couple of trusted brothers and sisters in the church can do take intake for those brothers and sisters who want to get baptized. I don't know what's the hold up, but I was just thinking maybe something like that can help the process.
Well, let me ask, which area are you in?
Right now, I'm in Oregon.
Oregon. Okay.
Out here with near Dr. Truman Burst.
Okay. Are you close to, let me ask, is that close to Washington State?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that may be part of the issue. Part of the issue is, obviously you want to make sure that you're contacted, but we don't have anything specifically in Oregon. So the closest place that may be to you is, or near you is Washington State. So if you're willing to travel, we can hook something up. But what I can do in the meantime is what I can do in the meantime is make sure that your information gets to the right place and that you receive a phone call. Okay.
Okay, man, because y'all just told me it's about 60 million times. Nobody got me back.
I'm sorry about that, brother. I'm sorry. But I'm going to try to make sure this happens, okay?
Okay, thank you, brother.
All right, all praises. Thank you for your call. All right, next we have Virgil with a comment. This is Virgil with a comment.
Hey, how you doing? Shalom, Elder Lawya. Virgil from Sacramento Body.
Shalom.
My comment, my comment is, what they're doing is slowly eroding our right to free speech. So this is what's actually going on. The internet is like the last outlet for free speech. So they're determined, and they're doing it systematically, just eliminating all free speech. Soon it'll be, you can't even have free speech on the streets. So this is what's going on. And they're currently passing laws in Congress to solidify this on the internet. So just to make people aware.
Yes, brother. Thank you for your comment. Very great comment. I'm going to put you back on hold, but thank you for your comment, Brother Virgil.
All
right. Shalom. All right. Moving on. We got the 678 area code, last 4 digits, 2535. All right. Let me make sure you all can hear me. All right. Let me try to bring the mic closer to the call. You all can hear the callers, can you? Let me try to turn the microphone up, see if that works. Okay. Let me try to turn up the volume here. All right. So that should be better. Only the calls are low. Okay, so let me try to make it to where you guys can hear the calls. I'm sorry about that. Okay, we got Talisha with a comment.
Shalom, Elder Lawya. This is Talisha from the Atlanta body.
Shalom.
So I have a comment just to clarify and edify everything that you were speaking on tonight.
Have at it.
Right. So I recently got a job offer from a institution that specializes in internet safety. So I'm now an internet safety evaluator for a company. After doing research on them, I didn't find anything that was super suspicious. I ended up taking the job. But after a while of working for them, I've noticed the things that they require as far as even the things that are in the guidelines for a lot of these social media sites are actually not even what basically what the companies that are hired to evaluate these things aren't what people think. So just so I won't disclose too much information, as far as it goes, like they'll ask questions like, is the information deceptive or misleading, and then does it cause any harm? So a lot of the times our job is to rate the items that we see, as far as just like YouTube videos, for instance. That's really popular for what we rate. And say a video will come up about, the woke culture. Say it's somebody who uploads a video about being woke or about spirituality and things of that nature. Even though it's not something that is in that contradicts mainstream, some of the things are viewed as harmful because the information to them, to the internet evaluators and our guidelines, are basically deceptive. And that information, specifically, they're saying that because of that information not being what is promoted or mainstream information, we have to mark that information as malicious or deceptive content.
Interesting. Very, very, very interesting. Wow. Now, obviously, yeah. I don't want you to, share anything that obviously would put you at risk or anything of that nature, understanding your position. But let me ask, so are there actual people on the other side who are making these decisions? Like how are the decisions, I should say, made on, okay, there's a video in front of us. Does that person who is making a judgment on the video, if it is a person, is this someone who is educated in the field that they are, when I say educated in the field, is this someone who is familiar with the content, familiar with the community, connected with the content, or is this just a person who is set over this responsibility and they just make a decision based on their judgment, on their judgment?
Well, basically, the company, they write up a guideline. And now this guideline is like 57 pages of information that this company, and mind you, this is an international company. The guidelines are international, and the things that they put up there are strictly for these types of situations. And then they say, oh, well, we don't want you to do bias rating. So the way they train us is they'll say, like, they'll put a video in front of us and say, okay, this video is what we consider as deceptive, and say it's a video of a conspiracy theory. We, just as the employee, our job really is to rate that video as such as the guidelines that they've given us. And we're not even told how they come up with these guidelines.
I see. So it's preset guidelines that you must abide by as an employee to rate and judge the content. I see.
Yep, especially for YouTube. YouTube is one of the biggest companies that we deal with so far. As I'm seeing, it's the only company I've dealt with. And we have to rate according to those guidelines. And if we don't rate according to those guidelines, they'll send us information stating that, hey, we feel like your information was biased based off of how you rated, and how they determine that. I really have no idea. Based off the questions, they just asked us to research. So they'll say, okay, research the uploader, research what kind of content they put up, research their reputation. And your reputation as a YouTube channel also has a lot to do with how we're supposed to rate your information that you're posting and things of that nature. So say you have example, say GOCC popped up, and I haven't had that happen yet. I've had a lot of other people, as far as Alex Jones and a lot of other things, pop up, and so we'll have to research you at a broad scope, and say you have half and half reputation. Say there's people saying, oh, well, we don't like GOCC, and then there's other people saying, okay, we like GOCC. We will have to rank you as a mild mixed reputation, and then so far as we go down the list, the information that we put next, if we put, hey, this is notable, this is expertise, trustworthy information, it'll pop up in it'll pop up and say, hey, that you're rating this, high good reputation or high quality information, but the reputation is low. So they'll say, okay, are you sure that you want to do this? Because we're going to look at this. Once we look at it and you saw this message pop up, we're going to hold you accountable for that.
Wow. Very interesting. Yep. Very interesting. Sister, thank you for your call. Thank you for that information. And that's definitely something to consider as we see these things play out in this time, and how things are being censored, and, to get actual insight on the process. That's I wasn't expecting that on tonight's call. All praise to the Most High for that. Thank you, sister.
Yeah, I'm glad that I was able to help out. And I would do have a suggestion for everybody who's listening out there. If you are a believer and you are trying to spread the word of the Most High, word of mouth is probably the best way to go, because everything on the internet, other people can see, even if you delete it. And a lot of the times that's how they're finding out, oh, hey, how you were saying that, they're looking at your profile and saying, oh, this person posts about this. I would suggest people take a big precaution on that. Stop posting about the things that you believe, because if you're a believer, there's no need for you to be posting about it, especially in the time that we're in now. We're not in a conversion type of time. We're in a, hey, I've told you several times before, don't do this, don't do that. Hey, that's not the Most High, and you're not really listening. So trying to post it on a big media that's owned by the B system is probably like the worst idea. And the water.
Absolutely, sister. Thank you again for your call. Thank you for that information. And brothers and sisters, we've been ringing that alarm for the longest. Be very careful what you post and who you post with, who you favorite and are connected with online. I know it seems like a good idea, to be a part of one big so-called Israelite community. But the reality is that that community only exists on the internet. It don't exist in real life. There's no one big monolithic Israelite thing that exists, or any other thing out there that exists, even outside of Israelites. Whatever thing you find yourself associated with online, you want to be real careful, understanding how things are being, how the narratives are being created, how they're being drawn, and how you can pour yourself into and be associated with some type of event that you didn't, you probably, didn't want to be a part of it, or don't want to be a part of. So definitely be careful of what your activity is online as it pertains to who you are associated with. Moving on to the next call, we got Elizabeth with a comment.
Shalom, Elder Lawya.
Shalom.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth from Minneapolis. I just wanted to call in to say that I'm being job segregated basically because at my job I can't go to certain places. They can't send me to certain places unless I take it or I have it. And also when we go meet to have meetings, because sometimes they'll have these meetings for everyone that works for this organization. Everybody that's a job has to go into a tent. We're not even allowed to be around all of them, which is good for us, but at the same time, it's just like, wow, like they're taking it a step further than most other places that I've been around or that I know that people work at,
What type of work you do? If you can share that with us.
I work in construction.
Okay. And let me ask, how is this affecting your, obviously you can't go into certain places, so I'm pretty sure it's affecting your normal flow of work and things of that nature. But, outside of that, is it affecting anything else as far as work goes?
Oh, sorry about that. For right now, I'm okay. It's not affecting me as much. Praise the Most High that He's allowed me to work with a company that's willing to accept my exemption, and they have certain locations where I can go and work at where it's not a big problem. So that's great. I know there's a lot of people that are in the same organization, and they because they don't have it and they don't have a religious exemption and they don't want to take it, they've been having problems, certain people, but for now everything's okay. I know that they're starting to ask for more policies for people that are on job, but and I know that it's going to come down to a point where I can't work there anymore, but for now I'm just going to hold off until that happens, I guess.
Yeah, and obviously you want to try to figure out as much as possible what your rights are as an employee or what have you, especially if there is discrimination. But I would also say this. If they are not preventing you from getting paid and getting whatever is owed to you at the end of the week or however often you get paid, then I wouldn't take it too personal. I can't go into this. Listen, I can't go into this building. I can't go into this section. But listen, my paycheck need to say what it need to say when this is all said and done. And if that's okay, if that's intact, if that's intact, then who cares? But I do understand the concerns as it pertains to where things are going, them wanting to put more pressure and things of that nature. But we can only take things one day at a time and understand that eventually, if that is the case, we have to have that foresight to know when it's time to pivot. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll say this. I think that as long as like everyone, elders and everyone in the church says, like, you have to have a plan B. So if, something happens on one side, have a plan B where you can sustain yourself somewhere else. And that's what I've been doing. I've been working on that. So I'm okay, whatever happens.
Absolutely.
Praise the Most High for that.
Absolutely. All praises to the Father. And sister, thank you for your call.
Thank you. Shalom.
Shalom. All right. I keep the listeners online. You guys keep saying that you cannot hear. I'm sorry. let me try to change something here. Maybe there's something I can do that makes it clear. The audio output. Let me see. Let me see if this works here. Just a second. All right, let me change this. Because if this works, this would be the ideal thing. But if not, I got to go back to what I was doing, sadly enough. So, but let me make sure that this is an option. All right, just a second. Okay, we're gonna go there. All right. Okay, output. Let's do that. Okay, testing. Okay, I think there's a way where I can actually. Just 1 second. Okay, let me see. Just a moment, just one moment. I'm trying to make an adjustment here. All right, mic check 1 2. Okay. All right, I don't think that's going to work. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work here. All right, so I got to go back to I'm going to try it out, see if it works. But if it doesn't, let me try this here. 1 second. All right, you all can still hear me, right? Yeah, that's what I'm trying to do right now. Trying to put it through the earphones and feed it through this audio box here, but I'm not getting anything. Okay, I'm not getting anything here, so that may not be an option. I want to feed it through this box so you can hear what I'm hearing, but again, I don't think that's going to work. Let me try one more thing, and if not, then I just got to continue. I'll take a few more calls before we close out. Take a few more calls before we close out. Let me see here.
To a land where no man can.
Let me ask, can you all hear that?
The 12 tribes of Israel.
If so, this is perfect. I need to make sure first you guys can hear it.
From Puerto Rico and probably from the heart of Hawaii. The Lord is calling back Israel. From Panama, yes, the North American Indians, Zambia, the Nanakay. Highest gathering in Israel. The Arabs and Africans told us. Together our wives and children sold us.
Okay, so we should have a better situation going forward here. Let me just take a few more calls before we close out. Okay, we got Elliot with a question. Y'all let me know if y'all can hear Elliot. Okay, I can't hear Elliot. Okay, one second here. All right. me see here. Okay, I think I know what I need to do. Just 1 second. Hold on, Elliot. I'm gonna get to you. I think I need to make one quick adjustment. And let me see. All right, there we go. All right, you guys can hear Elliot, right?
Hello. Hello, Elder.
Shalom, Brother Elliot. How you doing?
I'm okay. I've just quick question. I'm in Seattle, Washington area, and I was wondering if there's a congregation anywhere nearby.
Yes, I do believe we have a congregation in Washington State, but I do. So get your information over to Elder Rawchaa, and he'll get back with you as soon as possible. Let me get you down, Elliot.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Thank you for your call. All right. So I got you. I'll
Yes,
make sure
sir.
information is given to Elder Rawchaa.
Thank you.
All right. Shalom. All right. Let me see here. I want to make sure you guys can hear. Wonderful. 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 Perfect. Okay. So I can do this going forward. I don't have to play through the speakers. Okay. I can play it straight through this box, and you guys can hear exactly what is going on. So we got Brother Sabby with a comment. Brother Sabby, welcome to Blog Talk.
Shalom from New Mexico here, and I just wanted to comment on your theme of famine in the land, and there's a war on alternative views. Well, I can consider, there's a famine. Many people are dying from not hearing the word of the Most High, but in this famine, it's hard for me to understand it, because I just got out of one feast, the Passover, and then the Feast of Unleavened Bread, and now we're going into another feast. We're on the countdown of 50 days. Well, it's just hard to think of a famine, but for those that don't have the word of the Most High, I really do see they sure are dying with this famine. And I just want to comment on that war on alternative views. It seems like they're trying to deplatform. Seems to have a social department levels. There's a personal level, maybe a religious level, professional, scientific, and on the positions. All this seems to be culminating to place the entire population on a status, what they might try and say is mental health or something. And I just wanted to mention that. Shalom, elders, and thanks for all the feasts you prepared for us and everything. Shalom.
Shalom, Brother Sabby. Thank you for your comment. All right, I think, let me see here. We got the 631 area code, last 4 digits 0073. You have a question or a comment?
Over this responsibility, and they just make a decision based on their judgment.
Basically, the company basically write up
come back there. Okay, we got 216, last 4 digits 3521. Again, 216, last 4 digits 3521. All right, we'll come back. All right, we got 340, last 4 digits 69312.
Shalom.
Shalom.
Hi, Elder. Hi. Shalom.
Shalom, Sister
Hi,
Sunshine.
Elder Lawya. Hi. Shalom.
All right, how we doing?
Oh, hi. Oh, fine. Oh, bless you, Elder.
Bless you too, sister. All praises. All right, you got a question or a comment?
Okay. I just wanted to say, Elder, that the target of these charades is pointed at the children of Israel and anyone who does not follow the status quo. And in the headlines where the bold title on Black Israelite shooting, it was used as a welcome opportunity to affiliate the alleged shooters and future potential shooters with both Israelite men and Israelite women, whether or not it's innocent or not, whether he or she is innocent. So the face posted all over media walls that now replaces the modern day Middle Eastern face of the Iraqi or Afghani wars is that, predominantly that black face of the southern kingdom, Judah, and the opportunity to first put out in the airways the suspension and censorship or even indictment can occur from anyone at any time is a way to prepare the masses for unannounced or involuntary or even arbitrary shutdowns of not only their personal online accounts, but also the whole online apparatus in due time. So once the online societies are no longer under media control, but even worse is a seem in preparation to use that free speech moment online against socially undesirable individuals who do not, toe the politically correct lines, like somebody else was mentioning, to collect data and create a space to deem individuals as lawbreakers, to even seek personal arrests and even intrusions into physical lives of these members of the society. And once they are able to gradually pull this off, they can now create an environment that promotes hate of the word and of the scriptures, knowing that if they create an evil, the word will the wickedness of this world, then they may consider speech or an infringement on individualism, feminism, and liberalism according to the popular view. But we know, according to the word, that these things fall into the category of, the beginning of sorrows, like Christ was talking about, and these things shall come to pass, but the end isn't yet. So by grace we watch and operate wise and harmless, and know when we are, to be like pilgrims, like you're talking about, in preparedness as Joseph in these famines, so that no matter what the famine, what aspect, we will know that it won't come nigh us for those who love Ahaya and keep his commandments. And that's all I wanted to say, Elder. Bless you. And praise the Most High. Oh,
yes, praise
bless
the Father.
you, Elder.
All praises. Thank you, Sister Sunshine. Shalom. Thank you for your call. Thank you for your call. And I guess we will conclude there. It looks like we covered all the calls here, so I think we're just going to conclude. But if you didn't get an opportunity, if you wanted to share your perspective and didn't get an opportunity tonight for whatever reason, the conversation doesn't have to stop here. You can always go to the comment board on our YouTube page, agathering14.com. You can go to the comments under this particular video and continue the conversation. Leave your thoughts. Leave your perspective and what you believe concerning this particular topic. Do you believe that there's a bias against what they deem alternative media? And if so, express your opinion. Okay? But until next time, I want to say thank you all. And we should be back this Sabbath with another lesson inspired by the Most High. And we're definitely going to be back this Sunday for the Academy, if it be the Lord's will, with a lesson on the 4 beasts of Daniel. If it be the Most High's will, Elder Rawchaa will be back next week conducting the radio show. But until then, I want to say blessings to you all. Shalom. Y'all have a good evening. Shalom.